You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
If anybody watched Friends back in the day, one of the most exhausting storylines in the entire show was the Ross and Rachel thing. Will they or won't they? They do the rom-com thing for about 8 years, it seemed like, until a dramatic conclusion to where they rush to the airport and they all live happily ever after. That airport is how you got the answer to a question that was going on as long as the show. But the SEC has their very own Ross and Rachel thing, and that is 9 SEC conference games. Now, I'm not here to get into the argument of whether or not 9 games are better or worse versus the Big Ten going forward. I'm here to get in on this, that 9 SEC games is better for the fan. The fan would much rather watch Ole Miss play another conference game than Ole Miss play Georgia State or Georgia Southern or somebody from the Sun Belt, ULM or Louisiana Lafayette or something like that. So this is a good thing if it goes to 9 games from the fan. It is not a good thing if you're just trying to make a bowl game and you need 6 wins. If you need 6 wins, that means that your program essentially is mid, and you're needing all the help you can get to play in a bowl game because that makes your fan base happy of what's going on. I would like to think Ole Miss has gotten past that. I would like to think that Ole Miss is aware of what's going on and they will take on all comers. Ole Miss has the 3rd most wins over the last 3 years or 4 years or something like that in the SEC behind Alabama and Georgia. The only thing lacking in the Ole Miss resume in the Ole Miss quiver is a big game win. They beat Georgia, and it's starting to come, but Ole Miss needs to get to the point where they're doing that consistently. Lane Kiffin is one of the best roster builders in all of college football. He does that extremely well and yet gets no credit for it. Everybody wants to talk about big games with Lane Kiffin and not the fact that Ole Miss is winning 10 games in 3 of the last 4 years when they've done it once in the last 50. Lane Kiffin doesn't get credit for that. He only gets blamed for the other stuff, and I understand that. In the bleeds it leads journalism, that's the way it works from time to time. But the SEC going to 9 games would ultimately be a benefit for the fans. So this is from Ross Dellinger from, I think it's on 3 now. It might be Yahoo. I'm not 100% sure. Listen, I'm one of those people that doesn't care who tells me something. I care what they tell me. And who tells me, it goes in one ear and out the other almost as soon as I hear it. But this is Ross Dellinger. And momentum for the 9-game SEC schedule grew this spring, coinciding with the emergence of the 4-4-2-2-1 college football format, which I am in favor of, by the way. But it seemed to fade after coaches rejected the format. The coaches want to do the performative thing in front of that. If no coaches went in front of the media, it would have gone through and everything would have been good. However, combined with added ESPN money, because that's the key, if TV is going to pay, to potentially ease college football playoff talks, and SEC leaders are inching closer to adopting 9 games. If you look at the future schedule, Ole Miss doesn't have more than 2 non-conference opponents scheduled for 2026 and beyond. This has been planned. They're planning for this 9-game conference schedule, and I think they're going to plan for the Big Ten format of how the 16-team playoff happens. There's going to be posturing, things is going on in public. But when you look behind the scenes and seeing the SEC, they've eliminated every non-conference game but 2 every single year. It feels like something is up. And maybe the SEC and the Big Ten are kind of playing black hat and white hat, but in the end, they've already decided how this is going to be. And they're just playing out the public relations as we see right now. In meetings this week, the SEC executives move closer to adopting a 9-game conference football schedule. Sources tell Yahoo Sports a decision remains with the presidents, who are expected to meet soon on the issue. This could happen very quickly, and once it does, I imagine there's going to be some sort of a schedule release as well as the SEC tries to make money on that. According to the previous modeling of the 9-game conference schedule, a debate the league has held for 4 years, each school would play 3 permanent opponents and 6 rotating opponents. We'll explain that in just a second. And finally, if the SEC decides to move to a 9-game schedule, ACC leaders have said they would likely follow suit, a move that puts all 4 power conferences at 9-game league schedules. This may be expedited discussions around future college football formats. You might be doing this as a part of their agreement. Maybe they agree to the 5-11 thing. For the SEC has to go to 9 games. You put you in a little bit of a disadvantage. You can go to 9. Now, really important stuff to think of. The 3 permanent opponents that are rumored for Ole Miss is Mississippi State, LSU, and Arkansas. Those are the teams that you would play every single year, and you would rotate the other 6 and play everybody every other year. So in a 4-game period, and this all works out really well, a player that comes to your school in 4 years would play in every conference field in the conference. So at Texas, at home against Texas, at Oklahoma, at home against Oklahoma, everything would happen throughout the conference with 6 and 6. So we'll see how it looks and where the playoff goes from here. Now that the media speculation is distracted, they can make some decisions about what's going on there. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Listen, today in Ole Miss Trivia, we are talking about season openers from 1997. In 1997, they closed the season against Chad Pennington and Randy Moss and the Marshall Thundering Herd. But what was the name of the quarterback that Ole Miss opened the season against? It was their first ever overtime win, 24-23 against the Central Florida Golden Knights, who since have demanded that they be called the UCF Knights, but who was the Central Florida Golden Knights in 1997. Who was the quarterback that pushed Ole Miss to overtime to start that season? Answer in the comments down below. We'll put the answer out on social media a little bit later on today. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. Your second listen, check out Portal, the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal Podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody, and remember, analytics is just the old English word meaning bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.